Text browser. This podcast is at the basic level. It requires no knowledge of Accordance Bible software, Hebrew, or Greek. Today I'd like to introduce you to a brand new Accordance feature, Text Browser. Available in Accordance 12.3, it's like Live Click for verse references on steroids. Check it out. Live Click, introduced in Accordance 12.2, offered us a quick way to use research on a word or verse reference. Click either one, and Accordance opens a research pane that is searched for that word or verse in every text and tool in our designated group. Now, research has some real advantages. For instance, we can search texts and tools simultaneously. We can copy multiple resources to paste elsewhere. We can also read more of the citation or open the resource in a new tab. Now, new to Accordance 12.3, we can also open that resource in any saved workspace. However, research still has some disadvantages, particularly with regard to text. The pane itself is mostly inert, so it offers no instant details, no cross-highlighting, no compare text, and no interlinear view. That's why our latest rev of Accordance offers a brand new feature, Text Browser. So what's different about Accordance's new text browser? Take a look. We can immediately see a difference. This is what we call a live pane, and all these features are available in it. And we can even copy multiple resources to paste elsewhere. Just choose the tab, not an individual text in it, and select Copy All Panes. Text Browser's only disadvantage is, well, it's limited to text. Let's take a closer look at the Text Browser tab. It has a drop-down menu from which we can choose several different preset text groups and our custom My Groups. Though again, the text browser will only search the text in those groups. Switching back and forth among groups is easy, and doing so automatically updates the tab. The text browser always lists these resources in the order in which they appear in our library or our custom group. We cannot rearrange them in the tab. We can also choose the amount of context to show around the target verse with this menu, from 1 to 9 verses. This is more limited than the context sliders in the search pane, but some limitation makes sense when we consider that this pane is intended to let us view many different texts at once. Compare text is familiar to Accordance users. This one is even better. It compares same language text in multiple languages simultaneously. Right-clicking on the tab header offers us a familiar menu which needs no explanation. However, the text browser offers us a great deal of power as we can tie it to a variety of different tabs: Search, Text, Reference List, Content, Reference Tool, or User Notes. Tie it to the main tab and the text browser will update as we scroll through the verses, making all our texts and translations available at a glance. Finally, there's the familiar Recycle button. So long as we allow recycling, Accordance will reuse the pane time and time again. Want to keep a particular tab of text? Just click this button off. The next time Accordance needs to use a text browser, it will open a new tab, leaving this one untouched. The text browser displays the verse in multiple versions, each in its own horizontal row. For now, we're going to call these rows panes, even though they lack just a few of the features of our regular text panes. Within each of these panes, we can change the font size, open it in interlinear view, or use the gear menu. The gear menu allows us to open the verse in context, set the text pane display, or get information about the text. Not sure what a particular text is? Just hover over the abbreviation to see the entire name. Want to see instant details and cross-highlighting? Just hover over the word. Option or Alt-click to see instant details in a pop-up. Finally, we can scroll down to read the verse in other texts if there are too many to see all at once. In this instance, note that the scroll bar works differently than in other tabs. It doesn't move all the panes to the next verse, but scrolls the panes themselves to reveal others in the tab. We can, however, use the navigation arrows to shift verses, or the Go-To box to search for one. Finally, Hebrew aficionados, rejoice! All texts are appropriately justified for the respective languages. So how do we open a text browser? There are a number of different ways. Here's 5 of them. The first, which we've already shown in this video, is to click a verse reference. The second is to click a verse hyperlink. Third, we can use the File menu and use New Tab to open the text browser directly. The fourth method is to right-click a verse reference in any resource, whether or not it's hyperlinked, and use Lookup Text Browser. Alternately, we can use the fifth method and select a reference, then go to Amplify Text Browser. Is it possible to export or print the text browser in all its panes? Yes, it is. We can both export it and print it. We can export the text browser by selecting the tab and choosing Copy All Panes. We can then paste it into any word processor. The result will look something like this, though it depends upon our text browser preferences. More on that later. If we want to show highlights or compare text differences, printing is probably the better choice, as there we also have the opportunity to print to PDF. The result looks something like this, assuming we've chosen to print in color. Let's compare it to the copy and paste export we did earlier so we can see the differences side by side. Let's look at a few examples of using the text browser in common tasks. If Live Click is turned on and we've set our preferences properly, a single click on a verse reference in the search pane opens the text browser. Notice that this tab is called a verse lookup, which distinguishes it from text browsers launched by clicking hypertext links. The tab will be tied to the search pane, specifically to the verse at the top. Scrolling the search pane or jumping to another verse will also shift the text browser to that verse. With this setup, we always have an array of Bibles open to the verse we're studying. Here's another way to use this feature. Clicking on a cross-reference in the info pane will open it in the text browser. Again, if we've set our preferences to do this. Notice that this tab, launched from a hyperlink, is called a text browser. Once the text browser is open, clicking another cross-reference will recycle the pane to that verse reference, unless we've chosen to turn off recycling. In fact, there's no reason why we have to confine ourselves to one tab or the other. Theoretically, we could have both a verse lookup tab and a text browser tab in 2 separate zones visible at the same time. If we do this, the verse lookup tab would scroll with the search tab, our main text, leaving the text browser free to display whatever cross-references we wanted. Not enough monitor space for this setup? No problem. The 2 tabs can share a zone, stacked one behind the other. The word Christos, the Greek equivalent of Messiah, appears at Matthew 1:1. Triple-clicking it in my accordance program opens BDAG, as it's my default Greek lexicon. Its article on this word is perfect for illustrating just how powerful the text browser is when it's used with non-biblical verse references. Click the Testament of Levi, and the tag Greek text in all 3 English translations appear in my text browser. Scroll down a bit, and we can do the same with this reference from 1 Clement, and this one from Ignatius to the Ephesians, both in the Apostolic Fathers bundle. A bit further down in this same article, we can find a reference from Josephus' Antiquities. Again, the text browser opens it in both Greek and English. This feature is a great time saver for any of us that regularly work with multiple editions or multiple languages. Finally, the text browser works very well with Accordance's internal web browser. You may recall an earlier podcast where I suggested creating a user tool to keep URLs of regularly used websites. Here's mine, now updated. I enjoy the devotional Our Daily Bread, which sadly is not available in Accordance. With this tool, I can just click on its link without ever leaving Accordance. We can use the text browser for verse references that appear on a web page, like those shown in red here. For instance, Acts 2:24. As we read through the article, we can click on other references. Of course, once the verse is in Accordance, we can draw on all the study helps our software has to offer, commentaries, Bible dictionaries, lexicons, the atlas, and so on, using a daily devotion as a springboard into a deeper study of God's Word. The preferences for the text browser are spread among 3 different preference panels. It's just that useful. The main panel is Web and Text Browser. This is where we set our default text group and whether we'd like to impose a default text size for text open in the text browser. This is also where we set our export settings, those that apply to the Copy All Panes feature mentioned earlier. This allows us to customize our export to the format we like best. The second panel is Amplify, where we set our default for verse hyperlinks. We can choose whether we'd like such links to open in a text tab or the text browser tab. We can also limit the text browser to only opening references with 9 or fewer verses, which I recommend. Otherwise, prepare to do a lot of scrolling. Note that we can temporarily override our choice of a text tab or a text browser tab with a Shift key. The third panel is for Live Click, where we can choose our preferences for the verse lookup. We can either pick a text browser tab or a research tab, and again, we can temporarily override that choice by pressing down the Shift key as we click. Here again, we can also choose whether we'd like to open a custom My Group. By the way, this same panel also now opens if we click the gear button to the right of the Live Click checkbox. As you can see, the text browser offers all the convenience of Live Click with all the power of a text pane. This is the fourth feature we've added specifically for BibleWorks users, though I believe it's one every Accordance user will love. This has been Dr. J for Accordance Bible Software. Thank you for watching this episode of Lighting the Lamp.